Welcome back. Nigeria's ailing president was glaringly absent on Monday as his deputy marked their 2 years in power with no word on the head of state's health 3 weeks after he went on indefinite medical leave. Throughout Nigeria, people celebrate the 29th of May, our Democracy Day, the date a civilian rule was restored in Nigeria in 1999.
Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari remains absent as his administration marks 2 years. Buhari's deputy marked their 2 years in power with no word on the heads of state's health.
Democracy has come to stay in this country. And democracy is a leadership of the people where the people talks about their mind, tell their mind, a free state where you are not being harmed or fear of any person. You talk about your own opinion, you advise the government on which road they will follow. That is why it's very, very important.
Muhammadu Buhari and his deputy Yemi Osinbajo were sworn into office on May 29, 2015, 2 months after securing the first opposition victory against the sitting president in Nigerian history. But their election pledges to defeat Boko Haram Islamists and tackle endemic corruption have been overshadowed, first by the economic recession and increasingly by speculation about Buhari's health. May 29, known as Democracy Day for the date civilian rule was restored in Nigeria in 1999, has typically been used by the government of the day to run through a checklist of its achievements. Citizens say although much still needs to change, progress is visible throughout the state.
We've been ruled by the military rules, but for today, there's nothing like that since over 60 years now. So we are very, very happy today. Yeah, and we are celebrating it.
Nigeria, which is Africa's biggest economy on paper, has been in recession since August last year. Buhari's deputy Osinbajo pledged to build on the successes of the last 2 years until the end of their time in office. Bureau reports ANN7.
Angolan President José Eduardo dos Santos has returned from Spain. Now, this after confirmation the 74-year-old was in the European country for health checks. Dos Santos, Africa's second longest ruler, had been in Spain since the start of May for what was officially billed as a private 2-week overseas visit, has fueled speculation about his health when he failed to return. Angola confirmed for the first time on Monday that Dos Santos was in Spain for medical reasons. The government said he had been unwell but declined to confirm local private media reports of a stroke. The opposition party had previously called on the government to reveal the state of Dos Santos' health after reports he was seriously ill in a hospital in Spain. Speculation of his death went viral on social media but was denied by his daughter Isabel. Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe seems to be loving foreign travel despite the cash-strapped situation of the country. Mugabe flew off to the Mexican resort of Cancun this week for a global platform for disaster risk reduction conference with a 36-strong delegation in tow. Back home, the trip raised eyebrows with opposition wags wondering whether Mugabe, who presided over economic collapse and multi-billion % inflation a decade ago, was there to talk about causing disasters rather than preventing them. The length of the trip also made headlines in a country where banks hardly allow withdrawals of more than $50 a day and the government frequently pays state wages late. Mugabe left on the 19th of May on a private charter flight. His normal Air Zimbabwe plane is grounded with an entourage of at least 35 officials, including cabinet ministers, bodyguards and reporters from state TV and the official newspaper, The Herald. Burundi is hit by fuel shortages which threaten to paralyze an economy already damaged by years of political unrest. The problem has damaged two big foreign investors, Kenya's Kenol Kobel and South Africa's Engen, a subsidiary of Malaysian parastatal Petronas. The fuel shortages forced the government to introduce rationing on the 16th of May and caused food prices to increase. Now, Burundi has also been battered by drought and almost 2 years of political instability. Hundreds of people were killed and hundreds of thousands were forced to flee abroad during the political violence, which still sometimes erupts in low-level clashes. Supporters of Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta and of the Jubilee Party celebrate after Kenyatta receives the clearance certificate from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission following the presentation of his candidacy for the presidential race.
Kenya's Electoral Commission on Monday approved 8 candidates to take part in the presidential election in August, including incumbent leader Uhuru Kenyatta and his historic rival Raila Odinga.
This marks the beginning of the official journey to the second swearing-in of President Uhuru Kenyatta after August 9th for him to be the president of Kenya for the next 5 years again.
The vetting process left several candidates disappointed, including one man who allegedly tried to jump off the 6th floor of the Election Commission's office on Saturday when he was disqualified. Kenyatta's nod for another term has been met with applause, even from his rivals.
I've witnessed true transformation under President Uhuru Kenyatta's leadership. Mr. President, you have constructed the first kilometers of railway line since we got independence. The last railway was constructed by colonists.
Aside from the frontrunners Kenyatta and Odinga, both fielding the same running mates as in 2013, there are 3 candidates from small opposition parties and other 3 independent candidates named by the Election Commission. Kenyatta says his intention is to continue reaching all parts of Kenya.
Our interest is not this community or that community. Our focus is all 42 different tribes of Kenya.
We want our youth, our old, all to be included in decision making in this republic, and so that we can ensure that we have true equality and progress that is equitable and spread in every corner of our republic.
A dispute over the result of the 2007 election led to 2 months of politically motivated tribal violence that left over 1,100 people dead. Odinga again claimed fraud in 2013, but his challenge went to the courts, not to the streets, and it was dismissed. Bureau Report, ANN7.
A new report from the Human Rights Watch has revealed that authorities in Kenya have committed a range of abuses against journalists reporting on sensitive issues, threatening freedom of expression ahead of elections slated for August the 8th, 2017. Now, the report states that journalists and bloggers reporting on corruption, disputed land acquisition, counterterrorism operations, and the 2007 to 2008 post-electoral violence, among other sensitive issues, have faced intimidation, beatings, and job loss. Now, despite receiving formal complaints from journalists, police have rarely investigated the attacks or threats. Now, since President Uhuru Kenyatta took office in 2013, there is no evidence that any security office or public official has been held accountable for threatening, intimidating, or physically attacking a member of the media in Kenya. Kenya will take to the polls on August the 8th. More than a century after a colonial railway gave birth to modern Kenya, the country is betting on a new Chinese-built route to cement its position as the gateway to East Africa. The China-funded railway connecting the Kenyan capital with a key port would bring a wide range of benefits to the country.
More than a century after a colonial railway gave birth to modern Kenya, the country is betting on a new Chinese-built route to cement its position as the gateway to East Africa. The $3.2 billion railway linking Nairobi with the port city of Mombasa will on Wednesday take its first passengers on the 472-kilometer journey. This will allow them to skip a hair-raising drive on one of Kenya's most dangerous highways.
Ours has been much cheaper, but also ours is what we call first class, class 1. The one for Ethiopia, as a matter of fact, is what they call class 2. Ours is able to carry more cargo because, for example, in ours you can carry double-stacked containers, and therefore it is actually more efficient and more cost-effective.
The railway is the country's biggest infrastructure project since independence, and while it has been met with controversy, it is a key selling point for the ruling Jubilee Party ahead of the August elections. It is also part of a master plan by East African leaders to connect their nations by rail, with the Standard Gauge Railway planned to eventually link Uganda, Rwanda, South Sudan, Burundi, and Ethiopia.
If you look at all developed countries globally, whether in the US, Europe, Far East, China, Japan, there's no country which has ever developed without having a very robust railway system. No country.
The World Bank and others warned that building a new railway instead of refurbishing the old one was by far the most expensive option.
We anticipate and we have estimated that GDP will grow by at least an additional 1.5%. Like I said, people talk about the cost, but if you look at GDP growing by additional 1.5%, it will mean about $1.4 billion additional to our revenues as a country. That way we can pay back this cost of the railway within about 4 years.
The railway will be managed by the Chinese contractor for 5 years, with 610 Chinese workers in charge, while Kenyans are being trained to take over. Bureau Report, ANN7.
Ethiopia has officially overtaken neighboring Kenya as East Africa's economic giant. According to International Monetary Fund figures, Ethiopia's annual economic output for this year was expected to hit $78 billion from $72 billion recorded last year. The economic growth since 2015 has been pegged at 10.8%, which has helped put a significant gap between them and Kenya. In monetary terms, Ethiopia has opened a gap of about $29 million over Kenya. Ethiopia's economic growth is hinged on public-led spending on infrastructure and a strong demand by locals. It has also recently become a destination of choice for particularly Chinese investors. Another factor believed to be driving the economy is the country's large population, which is almost double that of Kenya. Ethiopia's economy since 2015 has been on an upward trajectory since the government moved to modernize its roads, railway and power plants. They are on cue to have Africa's biggest hydroelectrical dam upon the completion of work on the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. Ethiopia is experiencing an internet shutdown. The government has cited the move as efforts to prevent the leaking of national exam papers online. In 2016, the country banned access to social media sites after university entrance exams were posted online, but some have queried this explanation. A state of emergency has been in effect in Ethiopia since October following anti-government protests. Mobile internet access has been disabled on other occasions recently, including a period of a few weeks last year. And that's all the news updates that I have for you for this week around the Africa continent. From Milese Khomokonane and the rest of the Africa at a Glance team, Salani Gahle.